Hello, everyone. My name is Veronica, and I'm a member of the Orfeo Music Festival team, and I will be administering today's webinar. I'm pleased to welcome you all to the second session in the new Orfeo Music Festival Spring 2022 webinar series devoted to classical music performances. We have a full and exciting program planned for today, so let's get started. I would now like to introduce Larissa Jackson, longtime music director of the Orfeo Music Festival, who leads planning and development of the festival, as well as our webinar programs for today. Larissa will manage our program today and will be available to answer any questions during and after this webinar. And I'll pass it over to Larissa.
Hi, everybody. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Let me say a few words about the festival. It's Orfeo Music Festival is an international classical music festival event widely known for its artistic excellence. The festival takes place in Europe each summer, typically in the Alpine city in the northern part of Italy, Vipiteno, and occasionally in other locations. World-class musicians return every year to Orfeo to welcome audiences with series of solo and chamber music concerts and to mentor the new generation of musical talent who dream of reaching the highest standards in musical performance. From the time of its founding in 2003, the festival mission is to celebrate and promote artistic excellence with classical music performances of the highest standards and to offer superior education to the new generation of musicians with the world-class artists to nurture creativity and to build lasting human and artistic bonds.
Great. And I would just like to encourage you all to subscribe to our YouTube channel where we'll be posting the webinar series and of course, share this with anyone who might be interested. And yeah, before we get started, I don't know if we're recording. I don't see the bar saying that recording. So should I try recording?
It says on mine that it's recording.
Oh, it is? Okay, it doesn't say it on mine.
Yeah, it shows
okay,
on mine.
Sorry.
No problem. So we're opening a new webinar series, and this is the second session in it. Music is our world, which describes very accurately what it is. And it's a 3-year initiative by the Orfeo Festival exploring the role of music in our lives in a variety of different ways, but concentrating on the art of musical performance, which lays at the core of our musical experience. And now I would like to introduce our faculty today, Jessica Sherer, who is professor of flute at Valdosta State University and co-director of Atlanta Chamber Music Festival and a executive director at Played Forward Scholarship, principal flutist in Sinfonia Gulf Coast, among many other things. Jessica.
Hello, thank you so much for having me. I am excited to be here and to always, as always, to participate in Orfeo. I am going to introduce the piece that I'm performing today. I'm going to perform a piece called Image by Eugene Bozza for solo flute. Bozza was a 20th century French composer. And this piece kind of is really neat because it's sort of on the cusp of going between what we think of as like the traditional kind of French style and then more modern music. So flipping between tonal and atonal, flipping between metric and ametric. And, a couple of little newer techniques for his time period, like flutter tonguing and things like that. And then mostly more traditional melodic motives and things like that. So it's really neat to listen to as just sort of a bridge between those two really important styles in the flute repertoire. So this is Bozza's Image.
All right. Let me get to.
And this is a pre-recorded performance from this morning, just in case of technical glitches.
All right. We're ready to hear it. There.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's one of my all-time favorite pieces. So it's always fun to have an opportunity to perform it and kind of show it off to people, because it's a little different from most of the rest of what you think of as solo flute repertoire. So one of my favorites.
I like the beginning. It's almost a little quote from The Girl with the Flaxen Hair by Debussy.
Yes, yeah. Uh-huh.
Kind of making a bridge. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. He's
beautiful.
I always think of him as a bridge building composer. So, and especially in that piece, sort of those same sort of mystical qualities from Debussy, and then some very different things too. So, really cool piece. Thank you for the opportunity to play it. I want to introduce my student, Kaitlyn Calcagino. Kaitlyn is going to play another piece from another French composer about the same time period. And I think you'll hear some really distinct differences in style, even though they're from the same time and same period. And Kaitlyn is going to play the Sonnetine by Dutilleux. And this piece is sort of, I think, in that period where composers were really starting to experiment with different pieces of musical language that they could kind of play around with to create more interest. And so a lot of this piece is in asymmetrical meters. A lot of it is in 7/8 time, which is now something we're reasonably comfortable with, but was pretty new when Dutilleux was writing. And so it's a fun and challenging piece to put together, and a couple of I wouldn't call them extended techniques, but sort of more advanced and more experimental techniques than what you might have heard earlier in the 20th century as well. And of course, prior to the 20th century, there are a couple of cadenza moments. And this was, of course, when cadenzas were being completely written by the composer and not improvised anymore, but still an awful lot of interpretation to do. So that's kind of a fun part of learning this piece, is trying to go back and forth between what's prescribed and what's interpretive. And so that's been a great part of the learning experience for Kaitlyn as well, as she prepares this piece. So Kaitlyn, whenever you're ready. Well done, Kaitlyn.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Okay, I'm gonna grab my flute, which I somehow managed to leave right over there. 1 second.
Kaitlyn,
Because what is really standing out to me right now, you've done a great job kind of getting all of this technical stuff down, and there is a lot of it in this piece. And I know you've worked really hard, and it's all coming through beautifully. So once you get to that point with a piece, and you've really worked out a lot of the phrasing and all that beautiful stuff in the beginning too. So once you get to that point, I think with these, especially with these French pieces, one thing that you can really work on bringing out and varying a little bit more is your tone colors. And so I want to just really try to look for some spots where we can do that, and then experiment with how can you make those different sounds and apply them in a way that adds to the language of this piece, because it's such a colorful piece. And a lot of that's really coming through. And then there are a few places where you have, I think, some opportunities to make some more variation. So let's take a look at that. Just because I'm looking at it, let's look at this last page. And maybe kind of work backwards, or we might jump back to the beginning at some point too. But I want to look at rehearsal 16, where you start these little triplets, and he gives you the instruction there, mysterious, right? And so that's a place where I think you really have an opportunity to change the color of the piece. So when you think about a mysterious tone quality or tone color, what words come to mind for how you would describe the actual color that you're looking for in the sound?
Probably like hollow, kind of a little like pulled back a little bit.
Yeah. Hollow is a great word to describe that quality of sound. And I think what we get to do kind of behind the scenes as musicians that our audience doesn't always really realize when they're listening is we get to take an overarching concept like that and then break it down and find the science. So in order to create a hollow sound, so normally when you're thinking about just like a standard beautiful flute sound, what are some words that you would use to describe that?
Round and full, kind of like has a lot of core. Yeah.
Great words. And I think we talk about an open sound a lot too. So that's a good one. So to go from a round sound with a lot of core to a more hollow sound, what are some of the things you might be able to change in your actual setup? When the air goes from you to flute, what can you adjust to find a hollow sound?
Probably like maybe where you position your tongue.
Yeah, tongue placement would be a big one.
And not necessarily like support, changing how much support, but like I'm trying to get the words. I don't know what.
I know I'm putting a lot of pressure on you to come up with the words right now, but I don't know about you. I've found in my many years of trying to accomplish things on my instrument that if I'm able to actually verbalize what I'm looking for, if I'm able to describe it, it often happens much more easily than if I'm just kind of going for an abstract concept that I can't really name. So yes, I think I know what you mean in terms of adjusting your core. So we talked about the core of a sound, and now we're talking about the core of your body and making adjustments to the way that you kind of put pressure behind the air certainly is another one. And let's also think about the shape of your throat. You talked about adjusting tongue placement, and that really changes the shape inside of your mouth, which is important, that sort of like top to bottom cave that we have in there. And then if you were also thinking about the shape of the throat, what you're doing is you're sort of adjusting the column all the way from the bottom and out and into the flute. So we've talked about sort of here, and we've talked about here. Let's also talk about here. So when you're talking about getting the air from your face into the flute, you have some adjustments you can make there too. You can mess around with the amount of pressure that you have against the chin. You can mess around with the angle of air into flute and things like that. So we have a lot of different variables. Now, you talked about tongue placement, but the first thing you did when I asked you the question is you went like this. Do you remember that? So you touched something other than tongue, throat, core, flute. So now I think you shied away from saying that because you don't want to, we're so sensitive about putting too much tension in our cheeks, right? And we don't want to put too much tension in your cheeks, but that doesn't mean that you can't actually manipulate them a little bit to help you get to where you're going. So what did you initially envision doing here?
Kind of like a smaller opening here.
Okay.
Not so like the sound has not as many layers to it. It's kind of just like a little like a fuzzy.
Okay, yeah. So you want to use Yeah, so you want to use cheek placement to sort of thin out the sound a little bit. Yeah. So let's think about to go from here. I don't know if you'll be able to hear this or not. Let me do this. To here. For me, that's a more forward setup. I don't know if it is for you. And it's not just volume, you know, the volume certainly changes because when we're mysterious, we're not going to be blasting, but it's not just volume, it's that sound color that you mentioned, trying to get that hollow sound. So will you just pick any note? I was just playing a G, but you can pick any note you want and just experiment with kind of manipulating some of those factors and seeing what colors you can find in the sound. Yeah.
I did a lot of pulling, not pulling back, but like pushing, like angling differently.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I thought that was really effective. So if we look at rehearsal 16, we're talking about really low notes there. And so what you were able to accomplish there with just changing a few things is you got a sound I would almost describe as like almost a whisper.
Yes.
But then I think when we initially say whisper, that sort of brings to mind an unsupported sound, and that was not what you did at all, but a supported whisper, so that it feels like, you know, your audience wants to go, what'd she say? You know, and kind of taps into that like arm hair tingly mysterious sensation. So let's see if you can create that at 16. You might want to just take a second and experiment with the first couple of notes and really find that sound before you kind of take off, because there's a lot of finger movement here too.
Okay. That kind of.
Yeah. And I like it. I already like it. I wonder if you can tap into, so your technical execution of the sound is beautiful. Something about the pacing of the notes for me is you still have some opportunity there. So think about, I'm putting you on the spot a little bit, but think about if you can picture like a scene from a movie or a book where you felt something was mysterious. Some kind of mystery movie or anything where you don't know what's going to happen and you think you might be afraid of the next thing that's going to happen. Can you picture a scene like that in your mind? Can you identify a spot?
I don't know about a movie. I've always thought of this section as like a train, you know, kind of chugging along. And
Yeah, that accelerando definitely creates that effect for sure. So I like the image of the train for pacing. That's really helpful. I'm not sure that a train image is particularly mysterious.
Right.
So how can you impart some mystery?
Probably just like any of the last like 2 or 3 books of Harry Potter. So maybe thinking about those.
It's a very Harry Potter-like moment, isn't it? Yeah. I'm trying to think of a precise scene, but it doesn't even matter. They spend so much time creeping around places they shouldn't be. Right? So let's think about that and think about someone who is sort of like in a place. How about even in the earlier Harry Potter books where they're in the library when they're not supposed to, and it's late at night and they have the invisibility cloak and they're hiding, but Mrs. whatever her name is that I forgot is in there and she's going to find them. It's right. That sort of mystery, sort of like looking around the corner and is somebody there and can we find somebody? See if you can create that feeling and that atmosphere as you play.
Okay. sorry, I messed up.
That's okay. That's okay. Sometimes that happens when you're thinking about other things, but I loved that beginning. That was so much more effective, I thought. What did you think?
I felt like I kind of understood the whole point of it, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
Like the scenery made more sense.
Okay, well, it sounds like you understood it. So good, mission accomplished. So
Yeah.
now, just to throw a wrench in your preparations here, you paced it beautifully. You created the atmosphere beautifully. But what about all the accents?
I know.
not as in you didn't do them, but what do they mean in the context of that scene that you just created? You created a beautiful atmosphere. So how do the accents fit in?
Maybe like every time, he bumps the lantern when they're in there.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm envisioning. That every moment where they think, "Oh, somebody caught us," but then they didn't really, and they keep going. That's exactly what I would have said too. So see if you can bring those out. So you got right every time, and there's like it's just really building tension through there every time they think they're about to get caught. Good. Okay. Let me stop you there and say that's getting much closer. I think you can do more, and I think you're going to have better luck with those accents if you execute them from your belly. Okay. And you make them air accents. I feel like I'm hearing a little too much tongue, and it's causing them to be a little bit weaker and crack. So not to mix our metaphors, but this is a Santa Claus moment. We need a big ha. Okay.
All right.
Yeah, great. So it sounds to me like you have now a better sort of understanding of that spot, and now you have some sort of like technical execution left to do, but I love the sound that you're getting, and I love the mood that you're creating. And if you can work in those accents to where they're comfortable, I think you're going to have a really effective moment there. Let's back up, because we have another section that's almost the same right after 11.
Yes.
And I'm not going to make you do that section, but I just want to point out that you can kind of set that one up in the same way. And then can you think of anywhere else that you might be able to apply that kind of tone color?
Probably before 7, after the piano.
Okay, what's your idea there in terms of the emotional content of the music at that point? Is it creepy?
It's sad.
Sad.
It's sad and like almost mourning, that's what it kind of sounds to me.
Okay, so let's take that concept of a hollow sound and let's adjust it to be sadder. So what do you want to put into that sound to make it go from being mysterious to being sad? Because they're probably pretty close color-wise.
I don't really know. Maybe just probably a little bit more support.
Yeah, I think so. For me, when I think about a sad sound or a mournful sound, there's a certain amount of kind of angst in a sound like that.
Right.
And that is less to me hollow and more like there's something that's just pulling on the sound. It's just dragging it down. So there's a little bit more kind of tension in that sound that you want to create without kind of like digging in like we want to do for a really loud sound, because it's piano, but it's piano espressivo, right? So a little above piano, a little more expressive. but see if you can find that kind of tugging quality on the sound. So I think you can keep that open throat that you found for the more mysterious sound, but you mentioned more support, which I think is on the right track in terms of kind of just a little bit more body to the sound.
Right.
Let's see if you can find that in that section. Good. Okay, and now for the sake of experimentation, can you play that same spot? So that's 3 measures with a happy sound.
Okay.
Okay, so that had a lot more vibrato. It had a lot more kind of core to the sound.
Yeah.
It was a more pointed and direct sound. And now can you make it mysterious? Okay, so that sound had almost no vibrato, and you sort of entered the notes a little bit more tentatively, which I think definitely creates that creepy, mysterious quality. So now let's find that sad sound compared to those two, somewhere in between, I think. Yeah, I'll buy that. Okay, so what I'm trying to kind of get across overall is that you have, now that you have a handle on the piece, you have a lot of options and a lot of opportunities to really create more emotional content as you go through. And I think that, you know, one thing that most of the French composers do, and Dutilleux really does well in this piece, is he uses the full color palette of the instrument in his writing. But of course, we don't have any kind of notation for that, right? He can sort of tell you this part is mysterious, but he can't tell you how that sounds. So that's up to you as the interpreting musician to find and utilize your full color palette to get across his point as the composer and your own as the performer. So I think the more experimenting you can do with various kinds of sound creation, the better. And especially because you're programming this with Bach, you know, there's so much contrast stylistically between those two pieces. And this French music is just so colorful. So you're getting some really cool sounds right now. And I think, you know, your next step is to sort of practice those in and get really comfortable just flipping back and forth and being able to just kind of like turn that dial and say, okay, I'm going to my mysterious sound now, and you know exactly where that is. And the more you practice getting to those quickly and fluidly, the more you'll be able to even have variation within them and really start to kind of do these French pieces so much justice if you can really pull out all of those colors. That sounds beautiful. All right, let me see if there was anything else. Oh, I wanted to say to you at 7, right exactly at 7, your entrance on that F was so beautiful. I had chills. It was really, really nice. So great job there. You did a really nice job also at the beginning, creating those phrase shapes. I would love to just hear that once more. What I think I'm looking for here, I know I keep harping on this section, and the reason is because it's continually getting better and better and better and better, and every time it gets better, I just want more. So I want to just hear this opening again and simplify the overall shape just a touch and simplify, I think, the vibrato a little bit through this opening section. And I think this is a great opportunity to use this fancy screen share feature, because we can look together at where you're aiming, and also at just the way that some of the kind of counting of this section changes things. So we have, for those of you who don't know this piece well, You can see it's in 7/8. And so Kaitlyn is going back and forth between counting in 2s and 3s pretty much this whole time. So she's got like a 2 here and a 2 here and a 2 here, and then a 3, 2, 2. Oh no, not even a 2 there. A 3 here, and then a 2 and a 2. So she's got a lot going on in her mind, and it makes creating these overall shapes more challenging, because she's got all this technical stuff happening too. And then that's our challenge as musicians, do all the technical stuff without letting it get in the way. So Kaitlyn, would you just play this opening, and this very first phrase, where would you say is your spot where it's aiming? Where is it heading?
3 before 1, probably on the E, but not the very last beat of the E.
The tied portion of the E.
Yes.
So Kaitlyn's shooting for that spot right there. Okay, so let's see if you can if you can just do this opening phrase, and what we're looking for, and what you're already doing well, and I'm just looking for more of it, is one long and very simple line that gets you to that spot and then relaxes, okay?
Okay.
Beautiful.
Okay.
That was gorgeous. Yeah. Okay. I really liked that. Now, what you did in order to achieve that was you took a lot of the vibrato out.
Yes.
And I think what I'm gathering from that, and from hearing you play it the first time, is that the vibrato is largely what's creating all those little bumps.
Right.
And so what we want to do now is look at how can we apply vibrato without disturbing the line, without disrupting the line. So do you have thoughts about that? How can you apply vibrato in here without having it disrupt the line?
So probably just using a wider vibrato.
In some places, sure. Yeah, I think what I'm looking for, and what I think will be most helpful for you, is the idea that vibrato doesn't have to be steady and even the entire time. So you can use it to help you create that momentum. So what we need in order to achieve that line is we need momentum, right? And sometimes because the vibrato gets wiggly and it doesn't line up exactly where you want it, it can sort of chop that line. So what we need to do is thoughtfully apply it in such a way that it propels the line forward until we're ready for it to turn around, and then it can achieve that too. So let's look at our long notes. And what we want to do is use the vibrato to create that motion. So we've talked before about how vibrato has a couple of variables. We can talk about the speed of the vibrato. We can do faster or slower vibrato. We can do wider or narrower vibrato. So typically, if you're building momentum, the vibrato is going to get wider as you go, right? And so we want to look at these long notes, and where it tends to, where we tend to get little bumps in the line, that's where we need to pull back on the vibrato and make sure that it's moving forward and it's not pulling backward. So let's look at our long notes. And I think what we can do is we can sort of increase, for example, on this D, we can sort of increase the depth of the vibrato, get a wider vibrato as you go. And that will sort of propel you through. Where we tend to get sort of bumps in the road are places like this, that downbeat. We tend to kind of smack that note a little bit, right? And so what you can do with the vibrato is you can use the vibrato to help you avoid that. If you enter almost non-vibrato or with a really narrow vibrato, it's not going to feel like that smack. I think what's happening right now is, we have vibrato that looks like this, and you're entering here at the very top of the wave. Right. And I think if you enter at the bottom of a narrower wave, you'll avoid that. You can push it forward. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That's like a very technical way to look at it, but let's just see if it makes a difference. All right. So let's try that on that specific E and see if it helps.
So you want me to start on that E? Or...
No, let's go from the beginning so that you can
Okay.
enter it and work on the vibrato as you get into it.
Okay.
Yeah, I heard no bumps. What did you think?
I kind of like the starting it no vibrato just because it helps you grow.
Yeah, you can kind of warm into the sound. So we want to watch out because there are people in the world who do that on literally every single note, and then it becomes pretty mannered. But what you're doing is you're applying that technique very thoughtfully to help you propel a line forward on a long note, and it's so effective that way. And I thought it was beautiful the way you just executed it. I didn't hear any of the bumps that I'm used to hearing, and that E is really the big one. So I thought that worked really well. And of course, that idea sort of happens all throughout this piece, so you can apply that over and over, and I think that will really help. And then when we look at a phrase like one, the phrase at one, where's your arrival point for that phrase?
I feel like this is gonna be wrong, but 2 after 1, the D.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I will say, I guess there are answers that could be wrong, but there are also answers that could just be different. I'll have to agree because you're interpreting this piece, right? You're the artist here.
Right.
But I happen to agree with you on that one. This D is where we're going. I'll put my little star there. And that one, you know, you did this on the previous E. You really kind of grew into that star. This star is at the front of a note, so you don't really have the opportunity to grow into it. So this one, how are you going to structure the vibrato to make that happen without punching the note too hard?
Probably starts vibrato sooner, like in the notes before it, and crescendo
Yes.
into that.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure that you're setting up the note before the note that has emphasis. When you're trying to create emphasis on a note, the 1 or 2 notes prior are just as important, if not more important. So you want to make sure that those, you know, 2-ish eighth notes before it, you're already growing your vibrato at that point, so that when you land on that D, it doesn't seem out of nowhere. Oops, sorry, I'm rotating my screen. There we go. All right, why don't you give that a try to pick up to 1? Yeah, that's it. Can you do it again with just a little bit more, just like really sing through the E flat and the F. Ya da da dee da dee da da dee da da da.
Right. Okay.
You know what I think it is, Kaitlyn? I'm missing the vibrato on the F.
Okay.
You're doing the like alternate thing where you sort of like play vibrato on one note and then not on the next note and then use it on the next note. Let's see if you can get it on all 3 in a row. Okay, good. Yeah, so you did it that time, and it was very effective. It might have been a little too much, but that's okay, because that's, you know, we need to go there for the sake of experimentation. We need to often do too much, and then once you kind of get comfortable with it, you can find a happy medium and get the effect that you want. But I think using the vibrato that way helps you to make a really clear shape from that phrase without having that bump that often shows up on the D. So now that I can tell from your performance that you really understand the shapes of these phrases and you've really thought them through. Now the last step is just to smooth it out just a little bit, just kind of like file down the edges, you know, which I think you can really do through the judicious use of vibrato and varying it that way. So really, really nice in there. See if you can take that home and get more comfortable with the idea. And then, I think it'll settle in really well in that spot. Okay, we should wrap up here so we don't go too long. But does anybody have any questions or comments for Kaitlyn or anything?
I have a question about this piece. It's definitely a solo sonata, right? No piano.
Yes.
No
No,
piano.
there is piano.
Oh, there is a piano part?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. So how long have you studied this piece, Kaitlyn? Because it's well, tell us.
I started this piece my junior year, and I'm a senior now. So about I guess like a year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
I took a break off from it, so I had like the summer off from it, and I haven't played it since February of last year. But I studied it from August to February, and then now since August. That's confusing. That was a confusing way to say a year and a half. Sorry.
Mm-hmm. So it's pretty settled in your mind. I mean, you're very from your performance. It seems like you're very comfortable with the music already. So it's not a new piece for you, right? And how would you compare working on this piece with more traditional music, well, tonal?
This one was really hard to the beat pattern is really hard because it changes almost every measure it changes, so that was really hard to learn. And so and in comparison to traditional music, it's usually 2/4, 3/4, 4/4, and it's really easy to just set a metronome on and just go, all right, and play through it and whatever else. And with classical music, classical music is a little bit simpler, and now Baroque, that's even simpler, and so it just gets more and more exaggerated as this as music goes on, and this piece is full of exaggeration. And so that was really that was a difficult thing to grasp, was exaggerating and doing more of what what you do in traditional, like, classical and Baroque music.
Are you planning to play it by memory at one point? Maybe you already play by memory?
I have not played it from memory, but maybe one day.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe one
day. And the more general questions, maybe we can hear from Professor Scherer, and maybe first from Kaitlyn. What brings you to be a flutist?
Well,
How did you get to be so interested?
My mom played the flute in high school and middle school and whatever else.
Mm-hmm.
So when I joined middle school band, it was pretty much set in stone that I was going to play the flute. And then I went to a summer camp when I was 14. No, I was probably 13, and I got to play in an orchestra, and that blew my socks off. I was so excited to play. We played Mozart Symphony 40, I believe. I believe that's the one we played, and I got to play first on it, and I was just blown out of the water. I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And then I joined my youth orchestra, and we played Night on Bald Mountain, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is even better. And so all of my experiences, they've just gotten better and better and better, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just love playing the flute. So yeah.
And do you like to play solo? Do you like to play in a small group or in an orchestra? Do you have a favorite?
My favorite, I love to play chamber music. So when I got to play in woodwind quintets, that was a lot of fun. I love to play solo, and I love when I get to, be the center of attention, whatever else. But my favorite is definitely chamber music. for sure.
All right. Well, that was amazing performance today. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Professor Scherer, tell us how you came to love flute, that you even became such a professor of flute and a fantastic soloist.
Well, it's a not as romantic a story as you might expect, but I don't have any other musicians in my family, at least not formally trained musicians. And I wanted to play the piano when I was a kid, and I guess I showed a little bit of aptitude, just like picking out little tunes on the little keyboard my mom had bought me. And so she said, okay, well, if I buy you a piano, you have to play for 5 years. And I think I was 6 years old, so I didn't have any concept of what 5 years was, and I said, sure, that's no problem, that's fine. So she bought me a piano and I played for a while, and then I liked it. I think I took to it pretty easily, but it wasn't my soulmate, the piano. And I had the opportunity to join a school band, and I didn't know a lot about wind instruments at that point. And the band director asked me what I wanted to play, and I really only knew about flute and clarinet. So I said I wanted to play one of those, and he played the clarinet, and I didn't like him, so I chose the flute. And I guess the rest is kind of history. I just really took to it and enjoyed it. And, I learned it easily compared to my colleagues, probably because I already played the piano. And so I didn't have the music reading component to deal with at the same time. I was just, learning the instrument itself. And so to me, it felt like I was really good at it, and I was 10, and that felt important. So I just kind of kept going from there.
Right. Well, thank you for a fascinating session today, and very complex music to bring it to us. And yeah, it was fantastic masterclass. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Veronica, to you.
Okay, thank you guys so much. All right. So I just wanted to say how honored we are to have Professor Scherer and Kaitlyn Calcagino. I don't know how do you pronounce it? Join our program today, and for sharing knowledge and art. We hope you'll join us for our next session, which will be the 17th, this Thursday, from 1 to 3:30 p.m. Eastern. We will have our second cello summit with Ross Harborough, Moises Molina, and Alvin Blanc. And after their performances and with some students from Russia and Germany and the United States, we will have a panel on sharing thoughts and experiences on surviving the pandemic. So that should be very interesting. And then this Sunday, we have many performances and master classes. The 20th, starting at 1 p.m. Eastern time, we will have a romanticism and music lecture and recital with Maria Razmusovskaya, and she will be playing the piano. And we will have a master class with Matteo Cardelli from 2 to 3 p.m. Eastern time. And then from 3 to 5, we will have a violin masterclass with Annie Shalix-Boyle. So before we conclude, I would just like to introduce to those of you who might have missed the new dates for this summer's edition of the Orfeo Music Festival, an international classical music event and a one-of-a-kind opportunity for ambitious classical music student performers to travel to Italy in July to train with a world-class faculty members, participate in their master classes, perform internationally, and gain recognition in concerts, go on trips and musical tours of all historical locations, and make new musical friendships and international network of professional connections. This year, Orfeo Festival will not only feature the original festival program in Viterbo, Italy, from July 4th to July 16th, but it will also offer a special additional program, the musical tour of Russia from July 16th to July 26th. students can apply to participate in either the Russian or Italian programs, or both. The event is suitable not only for student and educator performers, but also others with strong interest in or professional involvement in the arts and music. You can register for the event through March 15th or by March 1st for the early bird registration rate. And we would like to also thank our sponsors as well, that include Orfeo Music Festival Foundation, Mayor Vipiteno Peter Volger, Department of Culture, City Council, and Department of Tourism of Vipiteno, Italy. If anyone here has any questions, we encourage you to reach out to us directly or website at www.orfeomusicfestival.com. We thank you again for attending today, and we look forward to speaking with you again soon or seeing you at the festival.
Thank you.